I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out, righteousness. I want to remind you of the fact that we have not just this building, but we have the courtyard, and out in the courtyard, we have a cross that Almighty God spoke to me more than 35 years ago and told me to establish in this kingdom a cross representing him and to write upon it that he is Lord. And I obeyed him. And I want the engineer, if he will, if he'll bring up the night vision of the cross that we use so often now on our broadcasts. If you could bring that up, please, sir. So those who have not seen it, that is the cross that's on the west side of our church building, for those of you who are not familiar with our property and its geographical locations. That is the 40-foot cross on a pedestal. The cross itself is not 40 foot, but on a pedestal. And that is it. That's the night vision of that cross. And it needs to be clear that should the LGBT or Satan's kingdom take possession of this property, would you put the cross back up, Mr. Engineer? They will take that cross down. Once again, thank you very much. Sorry. They will take that cross down. They don't want that. That cross is a landmark here in Harlem, probably one of the most famous landmarks of all of Harlem. It would come down. And I'm going to show you in just a moment. Mr. Engineer, thank you. Would you also bring us the daytime vision, if you will, picture of the cross? We have visuals of both. The night vision, that is the day vision. That is what's seen walking north on Lenox Avenue. That, again, is the cross during the daytime. Now, that cross will go. If this house fails, that cross will go. That landmark will go. They will take it down. And I thought that today, while preparing this message, that I would give you a little bit of a history of that cross and see if it can help you understand to interpret just how the devil is fighting with his kingdom of children of LGBTQ. Mr. Engineer, would you bring up picture number one or pick number one that we ask you to post for us? That is what this building looked like years ago before the cross was installed. As you can see, the west side of the building. Now, parenthetically, those are two vans that we purchased years ago. We used to roll those things all over the world. Those two vans parked, one was, I think, white, the other was gray or something of that nature. We always seem to travel with two vehicles, but that is what the building looked like. But the Lord spoke to me and said that I should establish a cross. Mr. Engineer, would you bring up pick number two, if you will, please, sir? Now, that, of course, is the cross the day that the vendors brought that cross to the church. As you see, it's on the sidewalk. We've got it standing on the sidewalk. Before we have launched it, or mounted it, rather. Mr. Engineer, would you bring up pick number three, I believe is what I want. Now, there is the crane lifter. As you can see, the truck with the crane, the heavy-duty crane, and it is lifting that cross up to put it up on the pedestal. That's what it looked like 30 years ago. One more picture, Mr. Engineer, pick number four gives us also a second view of the crane, and that was an exciting day. I was just so excited that day when the cross arrived, and we stored it in the building for a while. Then we're able to get a rigger, I think is what they call those persons that do that kind of work with that truck, to come and to lift it and install. I was just too excited to explain myself that we were establishing that cross in this community, on our land, our courtyard. Picture number 4 or 5, I'm not sure which I should go to next. I've lost count myself. But we finally get it on the pedestal. And as you can see, how the world and view has changed. And it happened because we believed God. People are now walking by to see it. And then I think we got one more picture, Mr. Engineer, if you don't mind. And I think that's the first view of the Bethelite Community Church, is what it initially said, the 50,000 righteous men. That's what it looked like 30 or 35 years ago. I can't remember how many years it has been now, but it's been at least that. So that's been the progress and the development of this church, the cross, that would surely come down. That would be the first thing. They would get a rigger and they would pull that cross down. They would tear down the pedestal and sell it for scrap or for junk if they laid siege on this property. You need to understand just how serious this fight is. I think most people can become aware of the fact of what it would mean for them to perform same-sex marriages here at this altar. But they probably never thought about what they would do with the courtyard and the cross, that it would come down, and that landmark and memorial where Jesus asked me to lift up his name in this community, they would be able to take it down. So I'm asking people to understand our fight, our battle. I think we paid initially $15,000 for that cross itself, just the cross and the announcement board, something called the marquee, from a company down in Florida. They manufactured it to our specifications. And then we paid a structural engineer to come from, I think in Long Island someplace, and that structural engineer that came from Long Island was able to tell us how deep we needed to dig the hole for the pedestal so that the cross would bear its weight and that it would stand there no matter what. We were told that cross and this construction and design would withstand 150-mile-hour winds. As you know, hurricanes and winds and rains blow through, and they blow down things that cannot withstand that. But that pedestal and that cross, wind speeds up to 100, 150 miles per hour, that cross will stand. And we've had Hurricane Sandy, and we had an event a couple of years ago where the winds were up to 100 miles per hour. But the cross is still standing. We paid the structural engineer, and we paid the man to build the pedestal for us some 20 to some 30 years ago, I suppose. I don't know the exact date. Elizabeth was able to get those pictures and dig them up out of history for me. But what I want to ask you, understand that we are the salt of the earth and that the light of the world, and that cross is lit. It is a light here in Harlem. And men don't light a candle and put it under a bushel, but they put it on a pedestal the way we have put that on.
God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. The devil been running around, talking like a crazy clown, but God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. He's God all by himself. He's God and God alone. God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. He's God all by himself. He's God and God alone. God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. God is still on the throne. He's God all by himself. He's God and God alone. God is still on the throne.